Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
Oh, sorry, guys. I'm messing with our show on stage. There we go. Hide this guy. Apologize for that. How are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to Whole Health Weekly. Missed last week if you're a regular person, just because Thanksgiving, there's so much to do before Thanksgiving. So you got to make sure you get like 5,000 calories per person. And so we were like, everybody was home. We were having a good time. And I was like, man, I don't know if people will be wanting to watch, on Wednesday night, maybe Thursday night when everybody's half asleep or they've taken 3 naps during their day, because, Thanksgiving is one of the most glorious holidays in the planet, right? Because it's all this delicious food and a lot of it's good for you. Maybe not the 3,000 calories or the 5,000 calories or whatever we eat on that day, but it's still a great time, right? So tonight I'm kind of excited. We always go through the latest health trends, that are kind of within the social media and mainstream media time, and some really good articles by a man named Dr. Joseph Mercola. Mercola's website is fantastic, and we kind of go through the latest trends on there. But I'm excited. In a couple weeks, we're going to have an interview on Sunday, I'm hoping. So be ready for that. One of my passions of doing this is to find people that emulate the prize inside. It's the ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And it's harder for me to schedule like interviews. So that's why I love doing them. So I've kind of lined up a few wintertime ones. Hopefully it all work out. But I'm excited about that. So anyway, so without further ado, the first thing we got to do is tell you how to follow us, because it's been pretty cool. I'm getting some good traction on the old Rumble channel. Remember, we also do YouTube. YouTube would be pretty cool to get up to as well. I wouldn't mind any of those, whichever one you like to go on. So I'll give you in the chat, I'm going to put the Rumble channel. So it's the Prize Inside on Rumble. So that's our first one. That one is good. And this one is, if you look up, if you put tribe1.substack.com, tribe1.substack.com, you can actually get on the email list as well. So that's a really good informational. Right now, it's just basically, until I get good at it, it's just emails to tell you notifications that I'm on. Sometimes we'll do like a recording on there so that you can get there. But because Rumble and YouTube are so good, usually I just direct you there. And then our YouTube, it's at the Prize Inside You. So if you put at the Prize Inside You into YouTube, then a lot of times you'll get to that channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, because we're amazing. Our group of 1% tribers are trying to do a lot of good things out there with holistic healing. And so I try to stay on the trends because so much stuff comes out. And so tonight I have a little one a patient gave me. Thank you, Julie. So hopefully she's listening. We're going to talk a little bit about magnesium, because one of my patients came in and goes, there's just so much information out there and how to take it, right? And so that's an easy one. We can go through, how to take magnesium, and don't get too sucked up into the weeds as far as like the best kind. There's a lot of things out there. So we'll go over magnesium real quick. And then my first thing every time we do Whole Health Weekly is that we want to make sure we do a chiropractic quote. Hello, Julie. Thank you for the idea. I appreciate you. So I looked up a little bit of stuff so we can get a good grip on our magnesium situation, right? So our first chiropractic quote, this one's more in the funny category. I don't know if I'm ever funny per se, but I like this. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. I find that funny. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. So remember that with the chiropractic part. I know that was slightly dumb, but I love that. So as we go, trying to use, you're going to see, hopefully, especially my ones that watch all the time, that I'm trying to get more techie. So if you looked, I'll get it on there real quick. I was so proud of this. My new screen. Let's see if it'll show it. Yeah. So I made that. Rachel showed me Canva, and I was like, oh, this is great. And so I'm starting to learn like how to use those different tools. So maybe it'll spark up the old internet stuff. So you got to have some cool videos too. My hope is. So I'm learning some AI stuff that might help us. If you use AI as a tool in some respects for efficiency and those kind of things, I think it's going to be a pretty good tool. So we'll see. It's AI, some people get scared the crap out of, but sometimes it's like, man, have it do a document for you. It's pretty wild, so the amount of time efficiency where you could actually do something else creative might be worth the effort, right? So with that said, let's talk about a little bit of magnesium, because magnesium, when you get online, it's very tough. There's lots of different styles of magnesium, and it's one of my favorites. One of the things I always like to say is you can take too much magnesium, and so we got to talk about that. What kind of magnesium is the next thing, because there's a few out there that I've studied that I think are pretty interesting. Magnesium citrate's probably the most commonly used and the most cheap, or it's very cheap compared to a lot of other different ones. They all work very similar, but this magnesium citrate has a little side effect. That could cause some issues. So I looked up a little bit of some other things, because magnesium, you got to understand what it's good for first. And then Julie's has me motivated. My next nutrition talk will probably be all on magnesium type situation, but I wanted to give you a kind of a rough like through what you want to do. So a general adult dose is 300 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium. Okay. So look for elemental. Okay. So that's a big thing. It's between they recommend 310 to 420 milligrams, but you can go up to, if you really need it, is 400 to 800 milligrams. And that's called the therapeutic dose. So, and you want to take half and half. So you want to do part in the morning, part at night. This is with a low magnesium situation where you're low on magnesium. And so a lot of times what you want to do is, if you're taking it for general, you want to stay between 300 and 400, right? And if your magnesium level's pretty good. If you have low magnesium, you got to go through what they call a therapeutic dose, which is where, like, a lot of my herbs will be like that, where you have to go into a therapeutic dose to get the effect. Once you get the effect, though, you can, you start backing off, right? So you don't want to do that all the time. Magnesium is just a really good one for so many things. Sleep. I'll give you the list. It's crazy. Sleep, anxiety, stress. And this one, if these are your three, they're recommending, Okay, so let's go through the different situations. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's talk about what it could be good for. Different magnesiums have different effects that can happen. So, like magnesium citrate, low magnesium, they're finding the thing that I've always noticed in me clinically is restless leg. So, restless leg syndrome was a big deal. Kind of still is, but it feels like it's fallen off because people had learned that magnesium is a big part of that. So what we're finding, or we think is happening, either because we take so much medication, right? So the average person over 50 is like 8 or 10 medications a day. That taxes your magnesium level. So what happens is you get low in magnesium. Then, because of these different medications people were taking, what was happening was the magnesium is so low, the muscles don't have the magnesium it needs, and it caused the cramping. And that's what restless leg was, twitching of the muscles and those kind of things. Once people started adding magnesium back into their life, restless leg almost went away. Now, there's a lot more that magnesium can do, and we just have to figure out the best way, right? So now they've understood this, and so now there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's magnesium glycinate, there's magnesium citrate, there's one called magnesium taurate, there's one called magnesium threonate. The one that I kind of have heard through my herbal thing is magnesium threonate, but I'll tell you why magnesium citrate is fine. Magnesium citrate is usually generally pretty good. The problem with it is it can cause like diarrhea. Okay. So it can cause diarrhea if taken too much. And sometimes your body doesn't like the magnesium citrate. That if that is occurring, either you take less of the magnesium citrate, or you can switch the kind you're taking. So a lot of the other ones don't really do the diarrhea exploding, cleaning you out like that. Okay. So here's the recommendation for the list. So look at these when you're looking at the various ones. For sleep, anxiety, or stress. So let's say one of those are your kind of main issues, but you still have low magnesium, right? Glycinate, so magnesium glycinate, magnesium threonate, or magnesium taurate. They all have no diarrhea effect, but they all do a calming. So if you're taking magnesium in one of the things, the body symptoms that are happening, right? The dis-ease, if it's sleep, anxiety, or stress, magnesium glycinate, threonate, or taurate may be the one you pick. For migraines, so let's say you have migraine headaches, typically magnesium glycinate or citrate would be your two that you want to go with. Both of those have high absorption rates. So a lot of times that magnesium, the migraines get improved based on the glycinate or citrate. Constipation. If it's causing diarrhea, it might be a good little solution for constipation. Citrate, hydroxide, or oxide. Okay, so there's two other ones, magnesium hydroxide and magnesium oxide. That's interesting. The oxide actually draws, it says it draws water into the bowel. And the oxide's by far the cheapest, but it doesn't absorb a lot. Okay. Muscle cramps. So muscle cramps, a lot of times, the best way to do this is actually on topical. And so magnesium chloride is the way to go. But you want like as a cream, we sell a wonderful magnesium cream at the office. Really good for pain as well, actually. So muscle cramps and like joint arthritis pain, magnesium cream can be a really good add-on. And you notice right away if it's going to work, right? So, but it also, by doing it topically, like in a cream or something like that, you bypass the gut. So you can rub the magnesium cream right onto the muscle. And once you do that, you're able to, have a better result. Exercise recovery, which is an interesting one. Magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate. Okay. So magnesium malate is actually used in fibromyalgia studies, which is kind of interesting because they're finding really good results with fibromyalgia patients with the magnesium section. That's why I don't think it's necessarily, we don't know why the magnesium drops out of your body. We've always assumed it was prescription type situations, but it also could be our crappy diet. It could be our horrible diet that, the fake sugars and all those things, because fibromyalgia kind of fits that. When your gut bacteria is so whacked that your muscles are panicking and causing a ton of muscle imbalances, tightnesses, and all those things. So that's another one to remember. Okay. Brain health and memory. Okay. So brain health and memory, magnesium threonate. Okay. So in my studies, I've heard migraine headaches with magnesium threonate as well. So those two, even though that's not studied yet, but they think that that's going to be a good one. This magnesium threonate is a little more expensive, different, like it's just a different level. And so the magnesium threonate is the only one that is proven to raise brain magnesium levels in a significant way. So remember threonate, if you have those, if you have migraines, you're talking brain health, memory health, those kind of situations, magnesium threonate might be your answer. Okay. So really the best one and the cheapest are usually glycinate or citrate. Okay. So those two, if you're not doing it and you're just trying to keep your magnesium level up, those are the two you want to, kind of aim yourself at. Okay. So remember that 300 to 450 milligrams per day is like that should be in our normal diet. Okay. So that's a normal thing. You should be taking that much. Any more than that, it starts competing with some other things. So you really don't want to overdo magnesium ever. Okay. Now, if you're really low and you need to do what they call the therapeutic dose to see if it works, 400 to 800 milligrams. Okay. And so that is the biggest thing. So you want to start the other big thing is start low and then go up, right? So if you even start at 200 milligrams, right? And just get it going, especially magnesium citrate. If it's going to make you do diarrhea stuff, then kind of slow play it up to what you want to take is about 300 to 450. Okay. So there's magnesium in a nutshell. Hopefully that helps, Julie. I love that. That was a great topic discussion. I was like, whoa, I'll say it in the office, individual patient, but why not put it on the podcast? Because then people will really, start taking, like what they need to. And there's a lot of information out there. So let's look at now the trends of the week. So let's see. We've been out of the news for a week. So we're going to see what these health trends look like. All right. Ooh, this is good. Holistic. This is the first one that comes up. And this is based on New York Times, Mayo Clinic News, BBC, WebMD, Healthline, all those kind of things. It's like the old record, microbiome, right, is going to be there. If you've been with me for 2 years, we've been talking about microbiome. And we'll probably have to do more because the gut bacteria is super important. Self-care routines, gut microbiome health, mental wellness breaks, which is kind of cool. Emerging therapies for chronic conditions. I got an exciting thing on that one. Okay, so let's go into the viral posts. So this one is the number one. This last couple of weeks was holistic self-care routines for lymphatic and nervous system resets. Social media is buzzing with simple at-home protocols for detoxification and stress relief, often blending ancient wisdom with modern science. Users share routines like dry brushing, which I don't know what that is. Magnesium baths, which that's putting magnesium into a bath, right? Humming for vagus nerve stimulation, so just actually humming. and gentle stretches to support fascial health and reduce inflammation. That's pretty cool. So I always say the lymphatic thing, I'm hoping that keeps trending. A lot of those things, if you go back to my sinus video, which is if you become a Rumble supporter, because I'm up to 71. I passed the 70 mark, Julie. Should be proud of me. 71, baby. We're getting there. Get up to 100. I'll be like having a party or something. But with the lymph drainage situation, a lot of times that really nice, easy on your body, kind of massaging, and a lot of times look at the anatomy of the lymph system, right? If you look at the anatomy of the lymph system, what can you do to kind of massage that away? Massage therapists, there's several that have learned some techniques on lymph drainage. This is not just for people with lymphedema, which lymphedema is the big ankle kind of situation that you can see sometimes on some people, right? Lymphedema, it's fantastic for, right? So these people make huge strides in all of that. But you can also do it on athletes. Athletes are having lymphatic issues. It's allowing recovery better with these kind of lymph drain massage type techniques, which is fantastic. So remember that one. Lymph is a big deal. Lymph doesn't flow. It's where all your immune cells are, right? So with all these, it's a fluid. It's kind of, I always think of it as like the oil in your car, not necessarily, like the gas has a line, right? So the gas in your car, that would be like your blood system, right? So you got this blood that's getting constantly used and moving quick. You have the oil that's kind of getting spread and diverse throughout the body. And that's kind of your immune system, or your immune system uses the lymph system plus your blood, but your immune system or your lymph system to kind of get around the body. It's like the little storehouse for the little immune system situations and getting kind of rid of developing mucus, all of these different things, right? So those are some things you want to look at, and the lymph is super important to understand. And maybe we'll do a whole talk on that actually, because that would be a good one, just to understand what the lymphatic system is. So like what we talked about, gut health and nutrient, number 2 trend is gut health and nutrient dense anti-inflammatory diets. This is going to keep being a thing until all of us do it. Focus on eliminating processed foods, sugar, and vegetable oils. All the garbage. Remember, when they say sugar, they mean fake sugar, because our world is full of fake sugar. That's what it is. Nothing you taste that has sugar in it is pretty much has real sugar. So remember, honey, syrup, those are all real sugars. Beet sugar, fruit has sugar in it. Like all of these things, they have real sugar. But most of the stuff, if you're picking it up out of a bag and it's sitting on a store shelf, it's not real. Okay, I'd fight somebody if they say you can find that. But vegetable oils, or the seed oils you hear about, are really, really tough on your body and the cells of your body. So looking at like what we talk about all the time, bone broths, right? Brothy stuff, fermented foods, high fiber items. Remember we talked about carrots, right? Carrots being one of the best probiotic fiber rich things that you can do. So you have this prebiotic, right? So when you're looking at like getting into really good gut bacteria, you want to essentially give it's live bacteria. When you're talking about probiotics, they're bacteria. And so it needs food. And one of the best foods is fiber, right? And so that's why good vegetables, that's why you don't want to stay on a complete meat diet all the time, because you're eliminating the prebiotic, you're eliminating the fiber that these bacteria live on. Okay. So just remember that. This one's interesting. So the third one on my list is mental health detoxes and what they call therapeutic laziness. So let's look at this. Short breaks from social media and embracing rest as healing are gaining traction, with users reporting reduced anxiety and better sleep. This includes Herkel and Dirkling, lazy mornings, and prioritizing routine over hustle. That could make some sense, actually. So when you're looking at, like a lot of times, a lot of situations occur where we are too fast. Now that social media, now that you can watch whatever you want, a lot of times your brain has a really hard time with the amount of stimulation on that, right? So a lot of times, and it makes sense, doing a mental health, staying off of social media, doing something with your hands, like doing something relaxing, right? And so that's a critical piece to actually healing. The amount of people. Oh, hi, Terry. Hello, Terry. Yes, fake food it is. I love showing these little comments. It's good. Oh, I'm glad you like the info too. But like a lot of times one of the things I have noticed is once we start working out, we get too intense about it. And so what we do is we don't do this enjoyment. One of these times I might have to bring Julie on to interview because she won't mind me saying probably, but she does some line dancing. And for me, that is a great exercise. Like just the idea of, square dancing. So square dancing, because it's go and then relax, go and then smile, right? There's so much to those type of things. One of my friends, we were talking about it, and he is in his, oh gosh, probably late 60s. Okay. So he's in the office and he goes, man, Jeremy, this is wild. I had this group family photo. So they were looking through photos in Thanksgiving of pictures of people in the 1970s. And then he's like, he kind of compared this family from the 70s family he had to his new family in the sense of like who's alive and all those kind of things. And he couldn't help but look at how much weight we have gained over that time frame. So he had this really cool old picture of his family, and they're all skinny, right? And then he has a family picture done Thanksgiving time, and everybody is like bigger, right? Not crazy overweight, but he's like, you can tell the difference in the picture. And we probably are all there, like you see those on social media and stuff, a beach in the 70s, early 80s is a little different than it is now, right? And so it's not about fat shaming. It's about, look at all the fake crap that we have. Look at our activities. It's all sitting on our ass, not doing the things that we need to do to really take it to the next level. And so I feel like our new world is doing more. I really do. I feel like there's a trend upward where we're not staying at home. We're not doing all these things. We're staying active. Even if you're working, you're still going somewhere. I love this new trend. I hope it keeps going because it has to be with the realization. I think the programming of the television, we were just talking about that today. They could have called it TV show, right? No, they called it programming. Think about that. Trying to program you. Isn't that interesting? I was like, they could have called it just television show, but no, they called it programming. Think about that. So they got us for a while. And now I think people are waking up and saying, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk tonight. I'm not going to stay home. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go work in my garage. I'm going to go do whatever. Right. Right now with my middle school robotics, I'm learning CAD, which is fantastic, but it's sitting on your butt. And so a lot of times you're like intaking. And so I'm like, okay, I give myself like the time it takes to take one lesson, which is usually like 12 minutes, and that's enough. Like that's enough for me, because that one lesson usually takes me about an hour to figure out how to draw this CAD drawing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's computer aided drafting, but I'll always be terrible because there's, but you can get this really good software and it helps us do like robotic parts and all those kind of things. But I'll do a project on there for an hour, and then I have to get moving. It's like I got myself so moving after work and everything that I never really stop until I stop, and because of that, it's really starting to, those things, it'll get you. So you want to make sure that you're not just diving into like computers and all those kind of things. Give yourself that break. Man, that was a tangent. I apologize. We've talked about AI and tech enabled stuff, so I'm not going to go into that too much. Just be careful with that. They're going to try to replace all healthcare with probably AI stuff. I don't know. It's going to be an attempt, but it's just not going to work. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, so I think that's it for the trends. I'm pretty excited about that. So let's start looking at my favorite thing of tonight's stuff is the newest, latest, and greatest articles from Dr. Mercola. So Dr. Mercola, remember, his website's amazing. He has a Substack and a website. You get on there, you get a free email. You don't have to subscribe. I would recommend subscribing, though, because of the massive information that you can get. It's like fantastic. So the first article we're going to go over is calcium supplements. Okay. So this is interesting because calcium's kind of been in the news a little bit in my world anyway. So calcium supplements and dementia. So there was I'll give you a little background. There was a study that there was a myth that if you take a calcium supplement, you're aiding in your dementia. No one really paid attention to that because no one really did understand why that would be a thing. But now it says calcium supplements and dementia. Major study busts long-held myth. Okay. So it says, for years, one message has shaped what you do for bone support. If you have been relying on the usual advice, this may change how you protect your strength and clarity as you age. Calcium supplements were long feared to increase dementia risk, but new long-term research found zero connection between calcium use and cognitive decline, even among women with heart disease or prior strokes. This was a 14.5-year study published in the Lancet Regional Health showed that calcium carbonate supplements did not raise dementia-related hospitalizations or deaths, dispelling decades of concern about vascular calcification or brain damage. That's what they thought, over calcification, right? Because of calcium. Your brain and bones rely on nutrient synergy. This is what's super important, what I'm about to tell you. Calcium works the best when paired with magnesium, like what we talked about. So we want to take calcium, magnesium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which makes sure that the calcium strengthens bones instead of depositing in arteries or soft tissues. So the K2 is super important. Bradford's hair. Yeah, baby. I knew you'd show up. But calcium is super important in a lot of ways. The ways to make sure it directs into the bone, okay, into the bone, is make sure you have some K2 with it, okay? So that's a key factor, and we want to make sure that happens. So calcium, magnesium, vitamin D3. If you've been watching me for a while, your vitamin D3 level, you're going to get it checked, right? And the last thing is K2. So those four things kind of need to be in a combination. Calcium by itself isn't very effective, okay? So, and it doesn't go where you want it to. You want something to create the absorption into the bone. That's where we want to keep our calcium, okay? One of my holistic docs that I remember so well if you remember, now you don't see it as often. So this must be, it's a testament to calcium. Okay. So a lot of us had loved ones, older, that were, it's grandma's grandpa, like those kind of things, that had this big dowager's hump, right? This widow's hump, the big one, right? And I remember Dr. Geimer had a lady, and he was just he loved her. So she was fantastic, but she was literally looking at the ground. Um, that's what the shape of her body was. Now, I mean, today they have some kind of surgical intervention, I guess, that can get you upright. But the problem is why did it happen in the first place? Well, one of the theories in holistic is that women's bone are more easily, you can take calcium out of their bone easier than a man's. Okay. So the human body can suck calcium out of your body, out of your bones quicker than in a man. Okay. So because of that, women weren't having heart attacks. So we need this calcium also for good heart muscle circulation, muscle health. This is a holistic process. So this is not like pie in the sky science. Okay. So, but this, I want you to hear this because it makes sense. So ladies would not have as many, let's say, heart attack issues because they were getting calcium from their bone, but they were getting osteoporosis because their bone was weakening. Men, because they can't pull calcium out of their bone, were having more heart attack related issues. And the reason this holistic practitioner had theorized was that the calcium, they couldn't access it as easy in a man, so then the heart attack would happen. The problem with your women is that they would get so much calcium leached out, they had a heart problem, if this is making sense. They had some kind of, your heart was asking for this calcium, but it was grabbing it. So then it made those bones weaker and weaker, causing those evil things that we see when it's so painful for these poor people is it's compression fractures. So vertebral compression fractures act just like, they almost look like a pop can. So a vertebrae is like a square. And so that vertebrae is sitting there, and it's a fortified Lego block, right? And so in compression fractures, it's where as if you stepped on a pop can. There's different ones, there's traumatic ones that happen on falls and all those kind of things. You're hoping that when this pop can collapses, that it doesn't blow out and you start irritating nerves and nerve roots and all those kind of things. You're hoping it just hits and then it just kind of heals up on its own. They can be horribly painful, not a fun situation. Okay. But that's one reason why these poor little ladies had these huge humps. And I think in the progress of understanding, with women taking calcium for osteoporosis, it's not a bad move. Medical, I'm not against it. I just think, the stuff they give you as a prescription level doesn't really do it versus making sure you have magnesium, calcium, vitamin D3, and K2. And then the other thing, my ladies, please remember this always. If you build muscle, your bone will strengthen because your innate intelligence of your human body will start to be smart enough to build that muscle, that bone you need for the newfound strength that you have. Okay. So just remember, weightlifting, lifting heavier, getting muscle mass to you helps tremendously in the osteoporotic situation if you have somebody in your family like that. Okay. So that was another soapboxy one. I apologize, but I thought that was a good one because it was a thing. Everybody was saying calcium was causing dementia. And we're like, I don't know, man. It seemed pretty out there. We have to do more work on the dementia side of medicines. Medicines, I think we're doing a little too much of that. Dropping things a little too low. Because some of these medicines work pretty good. Well, we have to start discerning that as well. So, and really start looking at brain health instead of just putting it off to the side and hoping that some medication will take the symptom away or whatever. So, okay, so I'll stop talking about that. Yes. Oh, this one's a good one because it reinforces one of my old videos. I thought this would be a good one. How proper breathing, excuse me. This is by Dr. Mercola again. How proper breathing builds better strength and lasting power. Okay. The way you breathe directly determines how efficiently your body stabilizes your core, aligns your spine, and generates strength during movement. Coordinating your breath with each lift or motion activates core muscles, improving posture, balance, and injury prevention while keeping your nervous system calm and focused. Faulty breathing habits, such as chest breathing, right? We've talked about this. I'll walk you through it. Breath holding, restricting oxygen, tightening neck muscles and back muscles can reduce your power output and endurance. Breathing too deeply often disrupts the natural balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide, narrowing blood vessels and lowering brain oxygen levels, the opposite of what most people intend when they breathe deeply. Relearn to breathe lightly, rhythmically, through your nose, through and your diaphragm, balances your CO2, and builds physical strength and mental stability for lasting energy controls. So if you really want a deep dive in that, we went into some really good breathing techniques. I want to say, if you look up, I'm gonna do that real quick here. My channel. Oh, come on. Let's look. That's not what I want. Let's see. Yeah, it was only November 9th. So the November 9th 1% tribe on Sunday, we did Breathe Better, Live Better. And I've done a few of these. So what I want you to do is go look at the breath work that's in there. A lot of good techniques out there. One's like nostril breathing. One's the 4-6-8 model from Dr. Andrew Weil. So there's a ton of these good diaphragmatic breathing. It's almost like a mini meditation if you do breathing correctly. So just remember that. One of my favorite memories of Dr. Geimer was that my first year, he was very focused on me breathing out and making sure my breath work was good when I actually adjusted somebody. Huge benefit. Helped me tremendously in understanding body control, everything, avoiding injury as a chiropractor, because what you go through is pretty physical, right? And one of the things that would happen is breathing problems, right? So one of the things I always tell people is half of you have had this happen. You've sneezed or you coughed and your back went out on you. You sneezed or you coughed and your back went out on you. Okay. Happens all the time. Why? Because once you that much pressure, it's 80 pounds or more of pressure as soon as you sneeze or cough. So think about when you don't breathe and you start to lift things, right? Or you over breathe and you try to lift things. These are different things. You want to make sure that you have that nice balance. Like as you go, if you're weightlifting and it's going heavy, right? Or you're lifting a couch, you want to take a minute to get your breath going in the right direction. Okay. But you see, it improves strength and it gets your core better. What other thing? And that's not even a hard exercise. Let's do it. Let's do some breathing stuff. All right. Okay. Okay. So let's do this because it's something we have to list. We have to understand. Okay. This one's not the greatest on the, being positive side, but it's a good article to understand. This is by Dr. Mercola. Obesity drives Alzheimer's through fat vesicles and leptin. Okay. So this is how this works. Obesity increases Alzheimer's risk by altering the heart-derived vesicles. Altering how fat-derived vesicles communicate with the brain, causing amyloid proteins to misfold and form toxic plaques that damage neurons and impair cognition. Specific lipids from obese individuals, including these weird names, so I won't do it to you, sphingolipids and ceramides, create oxidative stress in brain cells, reduce mitochondrial energy production, and accelerate the formation of sticky amyloid aggregates, which is not good. Excessive fat consumption promotes Alzheimer's development through balanced, controlled intake at low concentrations, helps inhibit amyloid aggregation and reduce disease risk. Oh, that didn't make any sense. Sorry. Let's go to the good stuff. Cellular health restoration requires eliminating the 4 key factors. Stop seed oils. That's the one big one. Stop endocrine disrupting chemicals, which you probably are going to know what I'm saying. Fake chemical type foods. Remember this one, electromagnetic fields, EMFs, right? So the EMFs we talk about with that, getting too much computer or screen time, and endotoxins in the gut. So it's big, getting your diet and weight under control to where you can actually do, losing the weight. We have a supplement at the office right now. Very cool. It's a tincture of hops. Fantastic for getting rid of interstitial fat. It's kind of proven to do that. I've been experimenting with it and liking it a lot. So if you're ever interested in that, let me know. It's at the office through a different company than I usually use. So it's a different process, but let me know if you're interested in that and just reach out. But getting rid of that interstitial fat, and we want to get that balance out of there, right? So that's a big one. All right. So let's go into all right. This one's interesting, and I got some comments on it. So we'll go through this one. This is Dr. Joe Mercola. Rates of postmenopausal low back pain have nearly doubled in 30 years. Low back pain is projected to affect over 800 million people worldwide by 2050. Among women over 55, cases nearly doubled from 89.9 million in 1990 to 177 million in 2021. Aging populations are the main driver of this increase, but postmenopausal women face a greater risk due to bone loss, muscle decline, fat distribution, and immune and inflammatory changes. Hormonal shifts during and after menopause alter bone density, disc health, tissue repair, making the spine more vulnerable to stress and chronic pain. Persistent low back pain is linked to multiple chronic conditions, including cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, mental health issues, and long-term functional decline. Regular movement, stronger core and pelvic floor muscles, improved posture, quality of sleep, and stress management are among the most effective ways to lower pain risk and protect your spine. I'm going to bring up one other one that I really believe is part of it. One of the problems is postmenopause has a lot to do with hormones. One of the big key takeaways that I have personally, and this is not scientifically backed, but I could tell you almost for certain that this has something to do with it. Remember when we were talking in holistic framework, we're always looking at how the body can express its internal ability, its internal intelligence the best it can. Why do we have so many problems in women's health with hormones? One of the reasons, I believe, is because our gut microbiome never gets addressed. So some people have a gut microbiome problem, but it's so obvious because of the different conditions. So you have IBS, you have Crohn's, you have all these different gut issues that pop up and say, hey, I have a gut problem, or I have a gut microbiome problem. That is one key. If the gut microbiome gets restored many times, I have seen from personal experience a hormonal switch, a hormonal change to where it's easier to balance these things. Now, I'm not saying it's a cure, right? I'm not saying that. But hormones are the chemical communicator. The nervous system, the spine and the nervous system and chiropractic is the electrical, right? It's the electrical communicator. Your body is communicating all the time. Hormones are your like floating communication system. It's like your Wi-Fi, right? So your think of your nerves as like high-speed internet cable. You got the hookup, but then you have this Wi-Fi that needs to get to every single cell. And that's kind of how your hormones go. Your gut has its own immune system. It has its own nervous system. It has all these things. And if that is starting to regulate correctly with your spine, the other thing is regular chiropractic care can help that spine in a regulation fashion, right? So not just waiting till you're hurting, getting checked once in a while, getting that spine, understanding like what that spine is doing can really, really help a lot of these type of situations. Making sure all the vertebrae are lined up correctly and all the nervous system's running correctly, plus the gut health, right? So if we got into this gut microbiome situation, we could really kind of change the perspective on this low back pain and postmenopausal. Why the connection? I believe, remember too, where do the nerves of the low back also go? The gut, right? So the gut. So after postmenopause, we go after hormones. We're trying to fix these hormones constantly. That's the symptom, right? That's what our sick care model does. We don't look for the overall causation. How come you went from normal hormones to abnormal, right? All of a sudden, magically, through this one stage of life, no one can figure it out. So now we're messing with these chemical hormones to try to get us back to that normalization. So my usual advice on this is get your gut microbiome corrected, get your spine kind of corrected, make sure all of that is working in a good order, and then the postmenopausal symptoms potentially could either lessen or your hormones could balance like they're naturally supposed to. Your hormones aren't stupid. They're getting told to do something, right? Our innate intelligence is your hormones aren't like unintelligent, right? There's got to be a reason an imbalance happens. We have to find that, right? And so that's where I think we were off the mark a bit in a lot of ways that we attack that guy. So that's a little soapboxy one. So I apologize for that. And we're so that was the last one. Oh man, I missed you guys on Wednesday night. I love this one. Going through the different articles. Hopefully you got something out of that. Let me see. All right. No little quick ones. Yeah, we'll get into some more next week. But here is the last thing I always like to do is look up the latest chiropractic awesome news. All right. All right. Let's see if I can find any good stuff. Oh, there's a really cool bill. If you're any close to, there's it's called the Medicare expansion bill. So if you're near any politicians in Michigan, they need to sign this. It's Medicare has pretty good coverage for chiropractic. The problem is they don't cover like the basic stuff. Like a lot of you, if you've ever been in, you have like an exam and then, x-ray and all those kind of things. Medicare literally doesn't if a patient needs that, they don't cover it. It's so weird. So, and you're going to do an exam and an x-ray, or possibly an x-ray. Most of the time you are, in a Medicare situation. So we've just been dumbfounded that hasn't happened. It's been like 80-year. And it'll help Medicare out. It would be way more affordable than, they cover full at like a hospital, which is, I think it's like 5 times the cost of the same x-rays or whatever. But the other thing is like, it doesn't make any sense. Like access to care is that's a little off too. So if a politician go, hey, I heard they want to do this expansion bill for chiropractic in Medicare, I would tell them, yes, you need to do that. If you want my vote, little suckers. Because remember, poly means many, and ticks are blood-sucking insects. All right, so I always like that. Let's see, latest research. All right, just normal. If you get adjusted, opioids go away. Another study. This one was 50,000 patients. Ooh, I should bring this up. So this is a 50,000 patient study. Remember how excited I got about the 151,000 military vets that got regular chiropractic care? 51,000 of them got off of opioids. That's wild. That was in May of last year. This one is from Traeger et al., the health science. It looks like a a journal. But it analyzed 49,000 patients from 2015 so a 10-year study. And they used chiropractic adjustments versus opioids. And so it said chiropractic adjustments while the person's on opioids versus just opioids. And it supports hugely that chiropractic should be the frontline strategy before opioids, because if you did chiropractic most of the time, or there's like a 50% of the time, it looks like that the person was able to get off of the opioids. The best move is not to start them on the opioids, get them to a chiropractor first. But with that said, it's one of those things. One of the ones I'm watching very closely on, though, if you know somebody with chronic low back pain, a lot of times people don't think of chronic pain. And as far as chiropractic goes, they think of, my back hurts. That's kind of acute. And then you come in and get fixed and you're out the door. Chronic low back pain can be you can really, really make a difference in somebody's life if you know somebody they have chronic low back pain. Most of the time, when somebody says, hey, it doesn't work, I have low back pain all the time, typically it's because that person doesn't want to commit to the amount of time, just like exercise. For us, chronic low back, you have to commit. You have to commit to, getting your spine done on a regular basis, working on the thoughts, toxins, trauma, all of those things that we talk about every week, because it's chronic. Each time, every year it's gone on, that's a ton of time your body has to adapt, and your innate intelligence of your body will give you the signals, whether you like them or not. That's the difference. So remember that, because there's some big stuff with chronic low back pain and chiropractic coming out. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed tonight. You guys rock. I appreciate you all for showing up tonight, Wednesday. Don't forget, Sunday night, not sure what we're going to talk about. I think we had positive vibes. So I think it's herbal time. So I'll have to figure out what herb we're going to talk about. But remember that Sunday night, 8:30, 1% Tribe. We'll go through that. And with that, I hope you guys enjoy your night and watch and critique me getting better at these like images and cool videos to make the stream a little bit more or a little better as well. So with that said, you guys have a great night.